All right. Hello. And welcome, everybody, to the What the Heal podcast. It's so great to have you here today. My name is Maria Sellers, and I am the host of the podcast. And this week, I am joined by one of my dearest friends, Jazmin Payne, and she will be telling us a little bit more about her journey. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Jazz.
Hi, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on here. I'm very excited to be here. It's such a great opportunity for us. And a little backstory for the listeners. Maria, who I call Mo most of the time, so if you hear me say that, it's just by habit. We met pretty much the day we both moved to Florida 16 years ago. We were like 3 or 4 months out of high school, and we both just basically put a finger to the map and came here for a personal training school. And it's been really fun over the last 16 years to see how our journeys, it's been kind of parallel. We've gone a little bit different, but we kind of stay to the same career path in different ways. And so it's been really cool to watch each other grow this way. And I'm really excited to do the upcoming retreat, to be a guest speaker there. That's going to be awesome. And we've done a lot of different classes and stuff together over the years too, so it's just funny because even if we haven't talked for a little while, when we get back together, we've kind of dabbled in the same things. So that's always fun to witness.
I know, it's so great to hear that. I mean, even talking before we started, how there's a training that we're gonna wind up. I'm gonna jump on that once we're done. We'll sign up while we're at dinner, and just continue to have that journey together. So as much as our journeys have been similar, there's been different aspects of them too, and so I'm really excited to have you on and to get to share more of that with people. For those of you who don't know, Jazmin is originally from New England, and like she mentioned, she migrated to Florida 16 years ago. She has followed her childhood passion of health and fitness into adulthood, becoming both a personal trainer and a massage therapist. She's been practicing massage therapy for the last 12 years, specializing in myofascial release. Over the years, Jazmin's curiosity towards deepening her own personal development journey and helping others discover theirs inspired her to do more. In 2020, she became certified in spiritual life and health coaching, providing her the tools to empower others to deepen their connection to self, spiritually, mentally, and physically, and to fine-tune their life to be their most authentic, full-body yes. Because if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a fuck no. So grateful to have her on today and to share a little bit more about her journey, because it really has been incredible to watch, what you've healed through, what you've gone through and what you've healed through, and ultimately what you've grown through. So tell us, what the heal is your story? We can't wait to hear it.
So since I was 12, I wanted to be a personal trainer. My mom would not let us watch. We weren't really allowed to watch TV, and we couldn't just hang out after school. So I just started working out violently and viciously pretty much every day. I even had a punching bag in my room. I got into boxing, and that basically became my whole life. And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a personal trainer. I moved to Orlando, became a trainer. Straight after that, Mo and I both actually went into massage school together. And then massage really, I realized, was my number one passion. And I have been doing it for 12 years, and I've never, ever wake up and am unhappy I have to go to work. I love my job. I've loved my career, and I love my clients. And I'm so grateful because most people don't get that opportunity,
Yeah, it's so amazing to be able to have something fulfilling that you do that lights you up from the inside out. It's such a gift.
Yeah, and anyone who does not feel that way, or even just at least a little bit, I invite you to start exploring what does make you feel inspired. Because you never know what can come of it. You can make money doing literally anything nowadays. So.
Yes, and it's so important to do what you love, because you spend so many hours per week, working. And if you're in a job that's miserable, your life kind of becomes that too, right? Because you're so inundated with all of that stress of work, and how do you separate yourself from that stress? So whether it's finding a new job or finding a new hobby you can pour yourself into that helps you forget about your job.
Exactly. So I guess some of the biggest things were when I was 25, my partner actually died by suicide, and talking about it on the radio, I guess, makes me feel emotional. That was 9 years ago now.
Let them out. Emotion is so powerful, and to feel that, where it's okay to have that.
Yeah, so it was definitely a very difficult time in my life. And I think back now when I see people going through grief, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to like hold them, because you get so lost. And if you have no tools, like I had no tools really back then.
Yeah, punching a bag doesn't help you to move through that, right? We feel like it does, enough. But no.
It helps a little, but it's not enough. And so I really poured myself. My clients will never know how much they like saved my life at that time, like helping others, and how much it really helped me get through like the worst time of my life. And so then I had actually been in South Florida at the time. I moved back to Orlando to like get back to my roots. Orlando's always where I go back to. It really is just my home. And from there, I built a business here doing massage. And then 3 years after my boyfriend died, my brother died of an overdose, and he was 25. So it was like two very young, traumatic deaths in a short amount of time. And in between that time, I also lost a couple friends and grandparents. And it was just, in 3 years, I lost like several people. And so after my brother died, I just really I'm like, man, like how, it was weird because like 2 weeks before my brother passed away, I remember calling my mom and saying, I think I'm going to be okay. Like it's taken me 3 years, but like, I think I'm going to be okay. And then like a couple weeks later, this happened with my brother. And I felt so like lost and helpless for my family and for myself. And my friend, actually one of my best friends, she was like, hey, I have this thing that might help you. And I was like, okay. She's like, there's this frog. I'm like, okay, just bring me to this frog. I don't, whatever. And I didn't even have
Take
her
me to the frog.
explain it to me. And it was Kambo, which those of you don't know, it's a frog from the Amazon, and it has a lot of healing properties. And they scrape the venom from its legs, and then they put it back in the tree. The frog's never harmed, and they burn the top layer of your skin, and they call it a vaccine on top of the burns, and it basically detoxes you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, your lymphatic system, your nervous system, everything. And so she brought me there. I had no idea what I was walking into. It's extremely intense for like 20-30 minutes. It's like the worst flu you've ever had. And you can be like on the toilet and throwing up at the same time. It can be very wild. But after that, it just like my whole world changed. It wasn't like,
well, you were getting a lot of migraines too prior to doing
that. Helped a lot. My whole life.
Yeah.
And all the women in my family with migraines too. So I'm also healing for me and for them.
Yes.
So then after I did that, I'm like, I did that a couple times, and I felt such a drastic difference in my emotional state. It was like I could finally like not focus on the pain 24/7. And so from there.
And was that something that you did? Was it how many sessions of that until you felt that difference?
So I did, so they say it's good to do 3 sessions within like a moon cycle. So I did that. And I would say after.
And for those of you who don't know what a moon cycle is.
Like from one full moon to the next full moon. I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. That is the terminology that they use when they explain it. Yeah, from one full moon to the next full moon. So I did that. I would say after the second one, I can't explain how the dramatic difference that I felt. And it also was healing. Like I had like acid reflux, and I had a lot of stomach issues, and I felt nauseous all the time, and the brain fog. I mean, I remember being like 8 years old and feeling like I was walking in a dream because I didn't know then, but it was brain fog for my whole life. It was feeling like I could think clear. So, and it helped the migraines too. And then And then my friend's like, okay, I have this other thing for you. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I went again, had really no, someone tried to explain, but it's difficult to explain. But I went and sat with the plant medicine ayahuasca, and like my whole entire universe just imploded on itself that night. And I remember I was sitting there and I'm like, with a very large group of people, and it's the middle of the night, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, who the fuck is sobbing like that? Like, who is it? And I start looking around, and then all of a sudden I like touch my face, and it was me. And I just cried for the whole rest of the night about all the grief, about all the sadness. And after that, I never stopped. So I've sat in probably 100 ceremonies. I've gone to the Amazon, and I'm a part of a community here. It's been really, I don't know where I would be had my friend, who I just love so much, had she not brought me to the frog and to the ayahuasca. Like, I truly don't know. And, you know, they have this saying that they say, the medicine is for everybody, but not everybody's for the medicine. So it's like, it can help everybody, but you have to feel called, like you have to want it, you know? So.
And you were at that space where you wanted it and needed that. And post, you know, your first time doing the medicine, what did that feel like for your grief? Like, what was the difference that you could really feel within that? Because so many people out there are struggling with that heaviness of grief. And so if you could try to put it in words, it's like, what did it feel like when you first worked with that, and letting go? I mean, not that you ever really let go of grief, but how did it help you to lean into it, I guess is the better way to say it.
Yeah. So basically it was like the best way I can explain it is like I had like a cement brick of overwhelming sadness sitting like literally on top of my chest 24/7. And it was like, after I started doing this work, even after the first ceremony, it's like the brick was removed and I could finally breathe. It wasn't that like the things that happened didn't happen anymore, that, you know, they were still very real in my life, but it's like I could breathe, you know, and I could see through a different lens. And then through continuing to sit with the medicine, I could understand more of like why things happened, or like my understanding of death and each person's personal situation and my own relationship with each one of them, and with my own relationship with my perspective on death and things like that. It's like when you first start drinking the medicine, it's very like surface level. And then now it's like my friend, he always says it's a shower for your brain. Like, now I've worked through a lot of the surface stuff, and now every time it's like just deeper and deeper, like things it's like it's getting into little tiny crevices of my brain.
Yeah, like using the dental floss and like getting into the cracks within all
like
of that.
Like that. And through that, it's like it'll tell me insights of like things I shouldn't be eating, because I've struggled so much with like my physical health, and it all really came back to the food.
And you would think you were eating so healthy back then too. I remember, you know, you'd always have like your pre-portion.
Very regimented.
Yeah, exactly. Like your oatmeal every day, which wound up not being
3 times a day.
Yeah, and you would literally carry your Tupperware of oatmeal around with you. But you know, and that like wound up not being something that was good for you, and contributing, like you were dealing with so much chronic inflammation in your body. I mean, I just remember you and so much of pain too. It can be linked to that grief and everything that we're holding on to in that way as well. But as you started to work through it with, you know, the medicine and kind of undoing that heavy brick off of your chest, there was still those inflammatory patterns that were still popping up and things that you were dealing with. So, you know, that's been a whole other journey within itself.
Whole other journey. Like the medicine starts telling me what I can eat, what I can't eat, and if I don't follow what it has told me, then the next time I sit with the medicine, I'm in pain. And it literally came down to that. I would be in pain. So because it's like so detoxing, and obviously it works with everyone different, but like that has been my relationship with the medicine. But Yeah, I was in so much chronic pain. I thought I was gonna have to give up massage, and like you were saying earlier, I had migraines to the point I was throwing up every night on my way home from work, like every night, because
Yeah.
the migraines were so intense, and I had so much pain in my joints. I could
Nerve
hardly
pain
move.
too. Like, yeah, I remember you having
I was
the
uncomfortable all the
water
time.
feeling. Like, I
Yeah.
remember that so significantly. You're like, it's like, it feels like hot. Yeah,
hot
like
water.
water running through. And that was just all of the pain that you were in. So, what are some of the shifts that you've made within your diet that have helped with the pain levels you were holding?
So I basically took out anything that was inflammatory for a long time. So I haven't drank alcohol in 3 years. I cut out coffee for basically the same amount of time. I still don't really drink it. Even if I drink like a tea with caffeine, now my body's like way too affected. I can feel it in my joints. I can feel it in my nerves. I have not eaten dairy in 3 years. I do eat eggs once in a while, but that's it. And then I didn't eat meat for. I mean, I've been doing that on and off my whole life.
Yeah.
But I only just recently started introducing meat, but I get it from like a very specific place. I get it delivered to my door. Like I know where it comes from. I get venison. And I cut out like all processed sugars. I was very limited. And one of the number one things is canola oil. Like people stop with the oils. Like you have to fucking stop with the oils. I'm serious. Like I'm so serious because I did the medical medium liver detox cleanse. It was 9 days. Okay. And so I did this and I took out all these inflammatory things. And at the end of the 9 days, I got myself these like sweet potato taro chip, whatever things that I loved from Whole Foods. And within 20 minutes, my fingers swelled up. I felt a brain fog. I felt like I was going to fall asleep. I could feel pain in my joints. And I looked at my friend, again, Dee, and I was like, something is not right. And I read the bag because I'm like, I know I can eat sweet potatoes. That was allowed.
Yeah.
And it was the oil. And so thank God I was living with her at the time, and she was like just the most supportive person ever. She even did the diet pretty much with me. And whenever I would have one of my migraines, she's like, okay, let's track. And it would almost every time come back to like, they sneak canola oil in everything. So I basically didn't even eat out for like, so when the pandemic happened, my world changed zero. I'm serious. Like my world changed not at all because I don't eat out anyways. Like I didn't eat out ever. I made my own bread at home. We made our own hummus. I mean, I drink celery juice every day for 3 years now. You know, and it was the only way. It was the only way for me. And then I even cut out all oils for a while, and then I slowly put back in olive oil and coconut oil, and I do well with those. And you know, as I've healed, once in a while, I had cut out gluten too for like a long time. And now as I've healed, like once in a while, I can eat those things like a little bit here and there and not be so severely affected. But I can't go back to living that way. And I don't want to because I freaking feel better. And like I care about my body and I don't want to put trash in it. Like, period. Like I don't want to.
Well, I mean, because when we feed ourselves with trash, we feel that same way too. You know, if that's what you're fueling up on. I read somewhere once, it's like, don't get your food in the same place you get your gas, you know, because so many people just like run through Wawa and are like, great, and, you know, get their snacks and food there. And then they wonder, why am I feeling brain fog or anxious or tight in pain? All of these different things. And, you know, so much of that links back to what we're putting into our bodies, or even what we're putting on our bodies, because, you know, your skin is your largest organ.
That too.
Yeah.
Your liver is so affected by laundry detergents and colognes and perfumes and shampoos, and like I'm so sensitive to those things now because I don't use them. And
if you see fragrance on an ingredient
like,
list, run. Put that shit down as fast as you can and run, because like fragrance is code name for over 100 different chemicals, and it could be any one or any combination of. And so you don't even know, because it's masked under that word fragrance, what exactly it is that you're, you know, putting onto you or into you, essentially, because it all gets absorbed through your skin.
And it affects everything because it seeps into your skin and it affects your liver. Like everything you put in your body, it affects you emotionally, it affects you mentally. I mean, I'm probably going to cry when I say this, but I'll give a perfect example is like when we don't take ownership of dealing with the situations in our lives, and when we use things to cope and use things to mask, like for example, alcohol. Like right after my brother died, we were supposed to go to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And my sister was supposed to meet us there, and she called me and she couldn't do it. She was just like, she couldn't do it. And really, I shouldn't have gone. But then I tried, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to push through. And I drank, and I was terrible to you because I was in so much pain, and then tried to cover it with drinking. And had I not covered it with drinking, the situation would have went differently.
Right.
You know, so like not only does it affect you physically, because then I also felt physically. I was like allergic to alcohol also, by the way.
Yeah.
Like for real. And I kept trying to find a different alcohol to
Right.
drink.
You'd be like, oh, I can drink this week.
this.
And then the next week
Yeah.
it'd be like, oh, no, it's this. And then it was vodka for a very long time within that. And, you know, trying to make that a thing.
So it affects you physically, it affects you emotionally. It doesn't heal your things, and it can affect your relationships. And I'm sorry for that time.
Oh my goodness. No, don't be. You know, there's life happens, right? And it's important to take accountability for the things that happen in your life, and to look at situations for what they are. And it's like, no, there's things that come up, and there's things that happen, and that's okay. That's all a part of life. But when we can recognize situations and take accountability for them, like that's where so much healing takes place, is when you can take accountability for your actions within your life and look at it and go like, what can I do differently? Because so many situations in our life wind up being the same situation over and over and fucking over again, like different game or different players, but same game, right? So we just keep running into these things until we can like step back and go, what fucking role am I playing in this? Like, what is it going on with me that causes this to keep happening? Because if it keeps happening to you, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, this might be what's going on here. So, you know, I think that's where so much healing happens, is when we can just take a step back. Oh, and not right now, because I need to be closer to the microphone. But when we can just take a step back and say, oh, okay, this is what happened here, and make the changes that we need to. So that way, it's not to say, you know, different things, that it's not going to ever come up again. But you can kind of stop it.
You can try to approach it
exactly.
differently.
You can approach it
recognize it faster and try to approach it differently.
Yes.
And
take a pause and go, wait, oh, I know what happens here.
How do I narrate this? Yeah.
Exactly. Instead of being on your just that autopilot mode, that reactive mode, which is the space so many of us live in, is a space of reaction. And when we can learn to like pause and respond, and hit that reset button, not a plug for my new class, but maybe, but when we can hit that reset button, that's where the magic happens, and that's where true healing takes place. So accountability is everything, and that introspection and looking at your life and what can I do differently so the shit that I don't want to happen doesn't keep happening, because it will keep happening until we can look and go, oh, this is what I can do differently, and these are the changes that I can make. So.
And to not play victim, because actually the biggest download I got from the last ceremony I was sitting in was that nothing is personal. And it's still, even though I like got this big, huge like epiphany about it, right? I'm still trying to practice it daily, because there's still things that happen that you're like, man. Yeah. But like the reality is like if someone treats you bad, it's a reflection on them, not you. Like it's not personal. If someone treats you good, it's also not personal. It has nothing to do with you. They're just a nice person.
Exactly.
And so like I literally was sitting there staring at the fire, and this came to me. I'm like, oh. Like, okay, but it's still, I have to every day, like if things come up, and my knee-jerk reaction is like, man, like what a dick, you know? Right. But I'm like, oh, that's not personal. Like, it's just not. And like, I can see it from an outside point of like, they're unhappy within themselves, and to actually like have empathy and compassion for them.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, you even think about cashiers, right? At the grocery store. Like, we've all probably had an asshole cashier once, but maybe they weren't being an asshole. You know, maybe they just found out that their father died, but they still had to be at work that day because they still have to pay rent. You know, you never know what is going on with somebody else. And so often we try to make it about us instead of like,
and it's not.
Letting it be them, letting them have that space to work through things. And even nice people can be assholes sometimes. Because life happens to all of us. Like
I've been there.
It's always happening to all of us. My dad is like the nicest person ever. And I remember I talked to him a couple weeks ago and he was in pain. Like his knees were killing him. He needs like both knees replaced. Like I don't even remember what we were talking about, right? But he was kind of just like, being in pain, and I work with people in pain, so I get what it's like to be in pain. I've been in pain, so I know like when you're in pain, like you're not necessarily so comfortable. And so he was feeling some type of way, but he called me the next day and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about our like conversation last night. And I was like, what? And he's like, well, I felt like I was being really short with you. I'm like, Dad, like you were in pain. Like it's okay. I know you weren't being short with me. I know that you were dealing with your own thing. Like don't feel like, you know, you need to, but he's just the nicest person ever. So I literally thought nothing of it because I knew he was in pain, but like he was sitting there beating himself up about it and like called me first thing in the morning, which nobody calls me first thing in the morning, if you know me. But he called me first thing in the morning, you know, just to apologize for that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, Dad, don't. Like, I understand. But I've done a lot of work to understand about myself and about others too. And so when you can have that, gosh, your days just go so much smoother because it's just like, no, they're having their own experience. He's in pain. It's nothing about me. And I don't have to make it about me. So not being the victim and not taking ownership for whatever other people have going on, because people have other things going on too. So that's a really good.
I have to say one side note is first of all, Mo's dad is the best. Clay is just the best, but can you do you do just the best impression of him? It's just so good.
He's just like, oh, I'm so sorry, Maria. Like I was in pain last night and I was like, oh, and I'm like, Dad, stop. Okay, stop. I love you so much. Like, please don't. Like,
you're the best, Clay. You're the man.
Exactly. Like, he just cracks me up. I'm like, oh my gosh, but it was really sweet that he felt the need to apologize, and I'm like, please don't ever feel like that. His shit. Yeah, he was owning his shit, exactly. But I didn't even see any of it because I just was recognizing, like, gosh, my poor daddy's in so much pain, like not thinking, why are you so short with me? Because I didn't need to make it about me. And, we do that so often as like making other people's shit about ours, taking it on. And then it takes up space in our like precious brain where we've got enough going on up there. Like you don't need to take other people's things and make it your own and waste your brain space, which essentially thoughts are energy. So if you're wasting all of your thoughts on things that aren't even relevant
you're
to
gonna bring
you,
that type of energy towards you too.
Yeah, and you're like expending so much energy within that. So it's like, let people have their moments just like you have yours, and then let it move on, and like don't ruminate.
And it's not our responsibility how other people receive us and our reactions too. Like we can't be worried about how other people are gonna feel about our decisions or how we speak or talk or anything. Like each one of us has to handle our own reactions.
Exactly.
I think that's a big one for people too, because you want to make sure everyone is, well, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I think when you're like very empathic and sensitive, or like you grew up in certain environments, you want to like, you kind of aren't comfortable unless everyone's comfortable. I know that can be true for myself. So I'll like
people pleasing is a very real thing, and it's a very real trauma response too that we picked up as kids. So
like very observant of even the smallest detail. Like I can walk in a room and I'll see there can be 50 people. I'll see the one person that's uncomfortable about something, and I just like want to make their life feel comfortable, and to train myself to not do that is very difficult. Like for real, it's probably like one of the most difficult things for me. But I'm aware of it now, which took me 30-something years to even become aware of it.
Well, kudos to you, because some lessons take longer than others.
It's physically hard for me. It's like physically hurts me to not want to make sure every person is like okay and comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and it's part of my nature. Yes, it is also part of my coping mechanisms. And the other thing that has been like blowing my mind the last, like, I don't know, 365 is that like how much of our personalities are actually coping mechanisms in response to traumas. Like how much of our personality is not actually our true essence and our true personality.
Majority of things get determined by the time we're 10 years old. So then we just become these like quote unquote adults trapped in these 10-year-old bodies with the same reactions and coping mechanisms that we developed as children, because we never learned that, oh wait, just because this is how I've done it, I can respond differently, and I can create new mechanisms, and I can find what actually soothes me.
And how much of it was learned behavior from when you were a child.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you have to, that's just my favorite work to really get into, and helping people understand and recognize that so much of our life has been determined by the shit we went through up until 10 years old. And, you know, so many coping mechanisms and things like that we've built up are all because of shit that happened when we were children.
And they say, oh, that's just the way I am, or you say, oh, that's just the way they are. And it's like, actually, no.
Yeah.
And I dare even go further that like you are an egg inside of your mom when she's only 4 months in utero of your grandma. So like, let that explode in your brain, because so everything like ancestral trauma is real, generational trauma is real, everything good, bad, ugly, whatever, physical, emotional responses that happened for your whole line of your family, everything your mom experienced, your grandma, all of that's in your DNA. And that's another cool thing about, I want to like add on, if I may, is about the about sitting with the medicine is I come from a pretty long line of alcoholism, and I'm not going to go more into it than that because I want to respect my family's privacy. But as I was drinking the medicine one night, I was sitting with the medicine one night, and I had already been sitting with the medicine for like 3 years, and it literally spoke to me, and it said like, okay, you're going to heal your family's trauma with this. And it was painful. Like I was like on my hands and knees, like, please make this stop, because it was coming from so deep within. And then when I finally felt like I was recovered from that, it was said, okay, now we're going to rewire your brain, so you're not going to have this gene anymore. This isn't going to be a thing. And again, extremely painful, but I have not drank since. So it's been 3.5 years now, and I have not drank since. And it wasn't something I had to actively like try to do. I had been drinking less and less and less and less. I was never an alcoholic, but I definitely did it like too much socially, and I was definitely a binger. Like I'm an all or nothing person with everything in my life. So I've been drinking less and less and less because to prepare for the ceremony, it's not good to drink. So it kind of just, my lifestyle changed, and so it wasn't conducive anymore. And then that happened, and I just like didn't want to. I remember right after that I went to a friend's wedding, and I was drinking a beer, and halfway through it I was like, I do not want this. Why am I doing this? And I just put it down, and I just never picked it up again. But it just, ayahuasca is like proven to rewire your DNA to like what is actually its natural state. And because what happens is like when we go through trauma, our DNA alters. And then when we have kids, they get that altered DNA. And so it's important that we do, it doesn't have to be plant medicine, but it's important that we do this work so that we can, when we have, as we heal ourselves, we heal our family.
Totally.
Even if we don't have children. As
right.
we heal ourselves, we heal our family, period.
I mean, it's an amazing thing to witness that, and to help be that light, within your family, and show them that there is a different way. That's really huge. So that's awesome. I love that. No, yeah. And there's a study that they did with rats, and I read about it in a book. They put some type of collar on these rats. Maybe it shocked them a little bit. They'd put a puff of lavender into the air, which lavender is relaxing, so I don't know why they went with that. But they put a puff of lavender into the air, and whenever that puff would go off, the rats would get shocked. And then, so those rats had babies. And those babies, they never put the collars on, but they'd put the puff of lavender into the air, and their anxiety levels would spike. Well, then those rats had babies, and their parents didn't even wear the collars, but those babies, their response to the puff of lavender, their anxiety levels went up so high. And they were like separated, you know, from even having the shock collar on them. And it just like shows how powerful that generational stuff is. And it's like, no, we can't ignore that. And a lot of times when there's things that are happening and we're like, I don't understand where this is coming from. Like, sometimes it's not ours. Sometimes it's something that, you know, has happened within our family that we're just holding on to the remnants of it, and we're never going to know where it came from. And that's why, you know, doing the work and growing through the process and just jumping in to healing in whatever capacity that you can, and, you know, whatever you start with, allowing your journey to unfold into the different things, because we'll need different things at different times. And, you know, that's why it's so important to have conversations like this. So people who are going through similar things like you know, feeling that heaviness of grief, feeling all of the different pain and inflammation built up in their bodies, you know, they can hear your story and know that, you know, they're not alone. There is a different way, and that they can heal and work through these things.
I literally say it all the time, but it's just so true. I don't leave my bubble very often. I call it going out into the matrix. And so, and when I go out into the matrix, I literally, like, I want to go up to each person and like cup their face in my hands and say, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, you don't have to carry, like, I can see it on their bodies. You don't have to carry that inflammation physically. Like, you don't have to eat this way. You don't have to feel this way. You don't have to be carrying that emotional burden. Like, I promise you, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, it is hard, but it's easy. It is hard work to do, but most of the stuff is easy. Like, it's hard to stay regimented every day, right? But it's not like a difficult task. It's not like a difficult task it's not rigorous for me to juice my celery.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But it's hard to stay regimented with it when you want something else.
Exactly.
When you desire something else. But so it's hard, but it's easy. It's hard, but it's actually quite simple.
Yeah.
You know, both are true.
And it makes your life so much simpler.
So much simpler.
You know, when you can do the hard steps, it helps your life just and it's not feel easier. I mean, because life isn't easy, right? There's fucking difficult aspects of life, as we've talked about a lot in our time together today. But, you know, we can do things to make dealing with life easier. And that's taking all of the stress out of our diet and off of our body and off of our minds and our emotions, and just allowing ourselves just to be able to go through instead of being weighed down with everything else that's happened to us in life. You know, when we learn to work through that stuff, we can lean into things as they come to us instead of being overwhelmed, because we already have all this other overwhelming shit piled on top of it.
And the cleaner we keep our vessels, like, the faster we can move through the the emotional things that come at us. It's just, you just can think more clearly. Your body can work better to heal you faster. I mean, I just went through a separation with my partner, and you know, it's been very heartbreaking, you know, but I will say, like, because I have the tools, and B, because I have the community I have. Like, thank God, because people need people. Like, yes, no one is coming to save you. That's another one. Like, sit on that one. Like, no one is coming to save you. However, community is important at the same time. Like, they're not there to save you, but they are there to hold your hand through the pain.
Yes.
And through all the things. So, but had I not had all the tools I had I not known to, like, let myself go into the emotion and not suppress it, and, like, had I not given myself the time to, like, literally lay on my couch for a few days and just be in my fucking feels.
Yeah, and let yourself be there.
Like, be angry, be pissed, be sad, be heartbroken. You know, let myself have a couple days to be the victim. Like, have a couple days to, like, blame the other person. I would not have gone through it as fast as I did. You know, obviously I'm still working through some things, but it's like the speed at which I'm able to heal from this, I am incredibly proud of myself for. And not only that, but because I've operated in this way during this situation, and I have totally surrendered to God, like, okay, have your way, because I clearly don't know what I'm doing right now. And so many doors have been opening up to me. And so it's like, like one of my favorite sayings that one of my friends always says is like, both are true. So like while I'm going through this incredibly like heartbreaking situation, at the same time I have like all these amazing things happening for me. So I'm like very sad and I'm also very excited, like at the same time. And I think for a lot of people that would create confusion, but it's just that both are true, and you don't have to be one way or the other. That is like polarity, that is duality, that is like what life is.
That's what I was to say, that is life.
That is life. Like it's not just like you have a happy season and then a sad season.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I'm both at the same time right now. Like
yeah.
I could have cried yesterday about the breakup, and then today I'm like, I wake up and I was just singing old school like Will Smith in my car, feeling great in this new poncho thing my grandma bought me, and
which I love.
Thank you. And like very excited to come on this podcast, and then we're gonna, you know, get dinner and talk about the retreat, and like I am over the moon about it. So it's like both are true, and like if people can allow themselves to like give themselves grace, you know, when they're not being their best selves. That's not to say stay not being your best self and just be like, well, I'm giving myself grace. Like no, like. No.
Let yourself feel the feels.
And then like get out of that shit.
And then, you know, really embrace all the heels.
Yeah,
like
exactly. You know, so like both can be true. And,
yeah.
You know, I think that's like been another great lesson that I learned over the last few years.
So important to hold on to that and to remember that. For our listeners, where can they find you?
So right now, you can find me on Instagram at Jazmin Cooper Payne. I'll go ahead and spell that. My name is long, and I spell Jazmin differently. So it's JazminCooper Payne. And I'm right there on Instagram. That's where I post all my content. That's where you can DM me, find me. And yes, so I am a life coach. So I got certified in spiritual life coaching, relationship coaching, and health and wellness coaching. So kind of the whole arena. I would call myself like more geared towards like transformational coach, you know, like personal growth, whatever you need to fine tune, help with, you know, accountability for things, figure out your gifts, tools and ways to cope with situations.
So important.
And get to the root of what is really going on, and like what is your fuck yes. I think that's one of the biggest ones. Like, what is your fuck yes? Like, what lights you up? And like let's cut the fat from there. Like, let's get rid of all the other stuff.
Yes.
So, and I really feel very strongly about, like, it just always comes to me that like I want to help people remember who they are. You know, I really want to help people remember who they are, because a lot of like who we are out here operating as is like we haven't even really met ourselves yet. And I really want to help people remember who they are and live their life as most authentically as possible.
And that is such a beautiful gift, because it's like, you know, remembering who the fuck you are before the world conditioned you to be somebody else. And that is one of the most incredible gifts that you can give yourself. So for our listeners out there who have resonated with Jazmin's story, please find her on Instagram. She is just an incredible soul, and her passion for helping others is truly remarkable. So, you know, if you resonate with her story, if you've been going through things like grief or, you know, physical, emotional pain, reach out to Jazmin, because she can help guide you back to that fuck yes version of yourself. So
thank you so much for having me on. It's so awesome, you know, 16 years later to be in this space together. And also, everyone, just to hype my girl up, come to the Uplift Retreat the last weekend in March. We'll both be there. It's gonna be awesome. I'm very excied to be a guest speaker there.
It's going to be so good. So good. I can't wait for it. Yeah. So thank you so much. You can look up Uplift Retreats, and Uplift is with a Y, like your last name is too. So find us on there, and, you know, I can't wait to share more with you all next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.